Hello class 6, how are you all doing? Children, your fourth assignment was also from the poem The Sailor, and the remaining parts of each exercise was given to you. So let us see how you have done your assignment. From page number 18, exercise A was one word answers, and you were asked to do the fourth and fifth part of this exercise. Okay. The fourth part of exercise A was name of the friend the speaker wishes to take with him. And the answer is Ashu. Fifth part, name of the place where the speaker intends to pass the fort. And the answer is Tirpurni. Tirpurni. From exercise B, question 3, 4 and 5 were given to you. Question 3 was, when will the speaker set sail? And the answer is, the speaker will set sail in the early morning light. Question number 4. Where does the speaker think he will be at noon? Answer. The speaker thinks that at noon he will be in the land of a strange king. Question 5. How long does the speaker think this journey will take? Pick the lines from the poem to support your answer. Now this question has got two parts. Okay, so your answer will also consist of two parts. The first part was, how long does the speaker think this journey will take? The answer of this part is, the speaker thinks that it will take 1 day to complete his journey. Okay. Now the second part was, pick the lines from the poem to support your answer. And the answer is, we shall set sail in the early morning light. When we come back, it will be getting dark. Okay, so these two lines are in support of the answer. Okay, because through these two lines, we are coming to know that the child is planning to start his journey in the morning time, and he thinks that he will be back from his journey by the time it gets dark. Okay, so the two lines that you will write in support of the first part will be, we shall set sail in the early morning light, and second one, when we come back it will be getting dark. Okay, now from exercise D, first part was given to you, and the question was, the speaker in the poem The Sailor is a highly imaginative child. Do you agree? Give examples from the poem to support your answer. Okay. So, yes, the speaker in the poem is a highly imaginative child because he imagines traveling to a fairyland. He imagines crossing the 7 seas and the 13 rivers within a day. He also imagines that it will take him 1 day to complete his journey, and while on his journey he will be visiting different places, like he will be passing the fort of Tirpurni, he will be crossing the desert of Dipantar, and he also imagines himself to be the prince of the story, and will collecting all the beautiful things, the wonderful things that he would like while on his journey. Okay. Now, beside these questions which were based on the chapter, your vocabulary exercise was also given to you, which was on page number 19, and this is the picture which was given to you. In the box, few words are given, and the picture is also there with empty boxes wherein you were supposed to write the answers. Okay, so the first one is, when I'll go, I'll start from like first row. First I'll do the first row, then I will go for the second row. Okay, now the first one is or, O-A-R, or. This is O-A-R, or. Now or is something which helps a person to move the boat forward. Okay, so that is this. See, you see this sticks with a broad end. These are called oars. Okay, so we have, when we are on a boat, when we are sailing on a boat, and it's a small boat, then we have got oars with it, and oars are always in pair. Okay, so we move the oars like this in water, and while we are following this action, the oar pushes the water, and this in turn moves the boat forward. Okay, the second one is anchor, ANCHOR, anchor. Now anchor is something which helps a boat remain in one place while it is at sea. Okay, so that anchor is this one. Okay, this anchor helps boat remain or stay in a place, in one place, when it is in sea. Okay, the third one is steering, STEERING, steering. We all have got steering in our cars. Okay, you all must be having cars, so you know what a steering is. Steering is which helps a vehicle to turn left or right. It helps the vehicle to change direction. So the same, it's circular, and in this picture, this is the steering. Can you see? This is the steering which helps the captain of the boat to steer the boat either left side or right side. This helps the boat to change the direction. Okay, the next one is moored, MOORED. Moored is the meaning of moored is when we tie a boat to a wooden pillar to keep it in one place. That is called moored. And in the picture here you can see there is a platform which is called a wharf. Okay, this is a wharf, and the boats are tied here. So the boats are, we'll say the boats are moored at the wharf. Okay, the next one is cruising. The next word is cruising, CRUISING. Cruising means when you are traveling in a ship or a boat. Okay, when you are traveling in water over a long distance, that's called cruising. So in here you can see this boat is still moving in water in the sea, and it is traveling. So the travel in a boat, when you travel in a boat, it's called cruising. Okay, the next one is capsizing, CAPSIZING. Capsizing means getting overturned by huge waves. Okay, when you are in sea during storm, or when an accident happen in between two boats, a smaller or a bigger one, then the smaller boat capsizes, it turns over, like it is shown here in this picture. See, this is the boat, this is a smaller boat, and this is a bigger boat. The bigger boat is hitting the smaller boat, and due to the force of the hit, the boat has turned over in the water. So the turning over of a boat in water is called capsizing. Okay, the next one is hoisting a sail. Now I have already told you, sail is a large canvas, a cloth of canvas. This is a sail. Okay, so hoisting a sail means when you are opening the sail in order to capture the force of the wind. And here you can see the boy here, one of the crew member of the ship, is hoisting the sail. Hoisting is opening the sail. Generally these sails are all tied up, and when it is time for the boat to move forward, in order to do so, the boat needs extra power and natural power to capture the force of the wind, to increase the speed of the boat. This sail is opened, and it is opened by a rope. So you can see here that a man here is using rope in order to hoist the sail, in order to open the sail, so that when the sail opens, it will capture the wind and the boat will move forward with the speed. And the last one is ahoy, AHOY. Ahoy is a way of boatmen, or you can say sailors, to greet each other. Okay, like when you meet your friend, you say hi, or when you meet your teacher, you say good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time of the day. Similarly, when one sailor meets another sailor while on a boat, the way they greet each other is ahoy. So here you can see the boy or the man is using that word ahoy. Okay. So that was your fourth assignment, and one more exercise was given to you from page number 20, that is appreciating the poem. Okay, and the exercise was based on similes. Similes is like when you are comparing yourself, or when you are comparing someone with by giving an example of something else, then it's called a simile. Okay, so and generally a simile is used when we make comparison, we use the term as, then the word is done, the name of the thing is taken with which we are comparing, and then it is again followed by as. So whenever a simile is being used, we use as dash as. So in this dash we use that name with which we are comparing the person or the thing. Okay, so your match the column answers are as busy as a, and the answer is B. It's already given in the book, as busy as a bee. Suppose a person says, oh, he's very busy, he's as busy as a bee. That means he doesn't have time for anything else to do. The second one is as blind as a bat. Okay. Third one, as cool as a cucumber. Fourth, as cunning as a fox. 5, as free as a bird. And the last one, as fresh as a daisy. Okay, so these are the similes. You must learn these similes also, because these similes can be used in creative writing. Like, you can use these similes if a topic is given wherein you can use them. Okay, so learn them also. Right now, coming to today's video, today's class. Today I'll be taking your English grammar. We have already completed 2 chapters of English literature, so now we'll be starting with your English grammar. This is your English book, that is Modern English Grammar and Composition 6. 6 here stands for the standard, and this book is by Crystal Publications. Okay, so we'll be starting with the first chapter of this book, and the name of the chapter is Sentences. That is from page number 5. So what is a sentence? If words arranged is making a sense, if you are reading few words which are arranged in a sequence and you are able to understand what is being said, then it is a sentence. Okay, so sentence is a group of words that makes a complete sense. Now, all words arranged does not make a sentence. There is certain criteria which, when fulfilled, makes it a sentence. The most important one is that it should make a sense. Okay, it should have a meaningful sense. Then only that arrangement of words will be called a sentence. Beside this, most important is there are 3 more things that a sentence has or should have. Okay, besides making a meaningful sense, it should always begin with a capital letter. A sentence, any kind of sentence, it always begins with a capital letter. Second thing, a sentence always has a verb in it. This verb can be a helping verb, is, am, are, has, have, or it can be an action word like talked, talking, walked, walking. Okay, so a sentence, first it should make a meaningful sense. It should be senseful. Second, it should begin with a capital letter. Third, it should have a verb. And last, and the fourth one is that a sentence should always end with a punctuation mark, and that punctuation mark should be according to the type of sentence. Now, you have already read about the different punctuation marks: full stop, question mark, exclamatory, okay, commas, semicolons, colons. You have read about that. So out of these punctuation marks, suitable punctuation mark is to be used. If the sentence is a declarative sentence, an assertive sentence, then it has to be a full stop. If the sentence is making a sense and you know that it is asking a question, it has a question word in it, then the sentence should end with the question mark. if it has a word which is expressing a sudden feeling, a joy or a sorrow, then that sentence should have a exclamatory mark. Okay, so these criteria are when met. These criteria when met while arranging a group of words, then it makes a sentence. And the most important is, above these 3 points, the most important point is that when you are reading that arrangement of words, you should be able to understand what is being said in that sentence. That means it should have a meaning, it should make sense to you. Then only that arrangement of words will be called a sentence. Okay, let us see an example to understand it better. Now on the blackboard I have written few words. Okay, you just see how the words have been arranged. Okay, the first one is market went to Mohan the. Now here the words have been arranged and I have arranged them without any thought. So when you are reading this sentence, when you are reading these words, you are not able to make out what is being said in this line. Okay, so this arrangement of words, because it is not making a meaningful sentence, it is not giving you a clear idea of what is being said, these arrangement of words is not a sentence. But if these words are arranged in a proper manner, in a proper sequence, and it is fulfilling the features that a sentence has and is making some sense, then it will be a sentence. Let us see how. Now I'll write it. Mohan went to the market. Okay, and then a stop. So what has happened? Words are same. Only thing, I have arranged them properly in such a way that it is giving you a meaningful sentence. By reading this arrangement of words, you are able to make out that the sentence is about Mohan and it is telling us that Mohan has gone to the market. It has a capital letter, it has a verb, and it is ending with the proper punctuation mark, that is a full stop. So all the criteria, all the features of a sentence are there, plus it is telling you, you are able to understand what is being said in this sentence. So this arrangement of words is called a sentence. Because it is a declarative sentence, okay, some information about Mohan is being told here, so it is ending with the punctuation mark, that is full stop. Okay, let us see the second example. You, my, did, pen, take. Again, the words are arranged, but it is not making any sense. Okay, so now if we'll rearrange these words, let's see what do we get. Now the sentence has got a question word in it, and that is did. Okay, so I'll be starting this sentence with, I'll be arranging it in such a way that I'll begin with the did word. Okay, so did you take my pen? And then a question mark. Again, the words have been arranged properly, and by reading these words, you are able to make out that the person is asking a question to someone else, that if he has taken his pen. So again, it has a capital letter, it is beginning with a capital letter, it has a verb, and it is ending with the correct punctuation mark. A question sentence and interrogative sentence always ends with the question mark. So because it is making a meaningful sense, it is giving you a meaningful sentence, you are able to understand what is being asked here. So it is a sentence, though it's an interrogative sentence. This one is also a sentence. It is a declarative sentence because something about Mohan has been told in this sentence. This is an exclamatory sentence because a question has been asked here. Okay, now let's see the third example. Water there little is in jug the. It's not making any sense. Let's rearrange them. Okay, so I'll begin with there. There is little water in the jug. Okay. Now when these words were arranged properly in such a way that it is giving you a meaningful sentence, that is why it is a sentence. Capital letter is there. Okay. Verb is there. See, remember, verbs are of two types. One is helping verb and one is action verb. Okay. Helping verbs are like is, am, are, was, were, has. So these are helping verbs. Okay. And then another one is action words like take or went. Okay. So a sentence can have either of the two action words, either of the two words in it. Okay. The first two sentences has got action words. This sentence has got a helping verb in it. Nevertheless, because it is starting with a capital letter, it has a verb and it has an object also. Okay, water is the object in the jug, and then it is ending with punctuation mark, full stop. So because it is making a sense, that is why it is this is a sentence. The upper ones are not the sentence because they are not making any sense. Okay. Now comes parts of a sentence. Okay. Every sentence, be it any type of sentence, every sentence has got two parts. Okay. There is a subject part and then there is a predicate part. Okay. Now what is the subject? Subject in a sentence will be about whom something is said. Okay. So subject is about whom the sentence is. And predicate is that part of a sentence which tells us something about the subject. Okay. Subject is about whom the sentence is written. Predicate is what has been written about the subject. Okay. Let us see the example. For example, Radha is dancing well. Okay, this is the sentence. Okay, now what is the sentence about? Who is the sentence about? It is about Radha. So Radha is the subject of this sentence. Okay, now what is being said about Radha? That she is dancing well. So this part is the predicate. Okay, remember, the verb comes in the predicate portion, in the predicate part of the sentence. Okay. Whenever you'll be asked to arrange words in a sentence in a proper manner to make it a meaningful sentence, always remember, first you'll have to pick out the subject out of the different words, which is the subject. Then you will have to pick out the verb, whether a helping verb is given there or an action word is given there. And then the remaining words has to be organized in such a way that it is making a proper sense. Okay. So a subject is followed by a verb. Okay. So whenever a jumbled up sentence is given and you'll have to arrange them in proper manner, what you have to keep in mind is that a sentence always begins with a subject, then it is followed by a verb. Verb can be any form of the verb. It can be a helping verb also, or it can be an action word also in any tense. It can be a present, it can be ing form of the verb also. It can be the past tense form of the verb also. Okay. So when you are arranging words in a proper sequence, you have to follow this. The proper sequence is subject, first will come the subject, which will be followed by the verb, and then it will be followed by the object. Every sentence has got a subject and an object in it. Okay, no sentence is complete without the object. Okay, so this is the sequence that you need to follow when you have been asked to arrange words in such a way that it makes a meaningful sentence. Okay, so the same thing is there in your book on page number 5. Now your exercise is here on page number 5, and it is saying rewrite these jumbled sentences using appropriate punctuation. Okay, so here you have got 14, 15, 16 sentences are there, and they are not proper sentences. The arrangement of words is not proper. It's not in a proper sequence. So you'll have to rearrange those words in such a way that they are making a meaningful sentence. When you are arranging them properly, keep in mind whether it has got a question word in it or not, and then the punctuation mark which you will put at the end of the sentence should be according to the type of sentence it is making. If there is an exclamatory word in it, if there's an interjection like oh, ah, wow, hooray, if these interjection words are there, then it's an exclamatory sentence, and then you have to put an exclamation mark after the expression, certain expression words like hooray, wow, ouch. Okay.